Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the second webinar from the Erasmus Careers webinar series. We are going to talk today about the introduction of the self-learning tool for the international student lifecycle that ESN International has been developing within the framework of the Erasmus Careers project. This is a webinar in a series of 3 webinars. So 2 weeks ago, there was a webinar organized by our colleague Adriana Perez Encinas from the University Autónoma de Madrid, where she explained how do students learn during their mobility experience. This and today you will hear from myself and my colleague where we will be introducing the self-learning tool for international student lifecycle. And in January, there is also insights from one of our colleagues, Nanette Ritmeester from Expertise in Labor Mobility, who will talk about how employers recognize competences gained during mobility. All of this is part of the Erasmus Careers project that aims to ensure that competences that are gained by students on mobility are recognized by the students, employers, and can contribute to the career prospect of Erasmus Plus participants. Measuring the impact of mobility abroad on students' careers remains still one of the bigger challenges, although everybody agrees on the positive benefits. So making sure that the support that you receive from universities in identifying and assessing the competences is upscaled is a core priority. In this webinar, we will talk more about the self-assessment tool that we have created, and we will give an introduction to why it is important to reflect on these competences. So we, as a key question, we ask ourselves: does all learning happen during exchanges take place in classroom? Because at the end of the day, the question is all the learning that you have recognized in your online learning agreement? And of course, the answer to that question is no. We see that there are 4 different types of gains identified. The first one is an academic gain, benefits that are connected to understanding the field of study and the scope it operates in. These are traditionally recognized in the learning agreement. But on the other hand, there are 3 other gains. The second one is employability gains, benefits that are connected to understanding the world of work and understand how to transfer knowledge and skills that you have gained in your academic setting into the world of work. But then, of course, there is also personal development gains. So your personal development through soft skills related to problem solving, independency, and adaptability that are benefits that you can gain through mobility experiences. And as a fourth, we have identified that learning about different cultures, education, training in multicultural environments, and attitudes towards different cultures are part of the different benefits that you can gain through an international experience. And the different activities that you take part in throughout your mobility can impact different gains or different benefits at a different stage in your journey. Now, as we mentioned, not all education takes part, or not all learning and skills gaining takes place in formal education. There are different types of education that can be recognized. On the one hand, there is formal education that is intentional, planned, has a more structural nature, and this is what is organized throughout your learning agreement and the courses that you take online. But of course, there's many more things that can happen and that you can learn from during your experience. And this is very often more captured in either non-formal education activities or informal learning that is taking place. And non-formal education it leans between formal and informal education in the sense that it is very often outside of the sphere of compulsory education, but there is still an educational goal. There is still a person that actually is facilitating your learning, and very often this is then rewarded with certificates, with credentials, with badges, etc. Followed by informal learning, which is more education or learning that takes place in a very unintentional, unplanned way. You might learn about different cultures during your exchange by interacting with, by going to the local bakery, going into the local supermarket, understanding how the public transport works, etc. This is not guided by an instructor, nor does it necessarily have a specific goal, but it's still very important to reflect on these learnings. So, and we have already mentioned this, but formal learning is very often part of a full-time educational pathway, whereas non-formal education is more complementary to the different educational activities and can be organized by civil society organizations, youth organizations, sports and cultural activities that you can participate in. On the other hand, then there is informal learning that is more self-directed and that you can actually experience even while going to the grocery store, as we mentioned. So formal learning is way more structured. Informal learning is then spontaneous and self-motivated. Formal learning very often is either regulated through the diplomas or degrees, while non-formal learning focuses more on skills and competences that are getting recognized. And when we then look at informal learning, we look at the personal development and the self-fulfillment of a person. And we believe that all of these types of learning take place in Erasmus Plus, and that by only working with the learning agreement, that the skills and the competences that you gain during your exchange are insufficiently recognized. And that is why because we believe that the Erasmus program allows for an experience-based learning, and the experience-based learning is based on the experience-based learning theory from Kolb, where a participant experience or an individual experience throughout their mobility. Then the goal then is to actually reflect on this experience and to reflect on what you have learned from your mobility, but also try to deduct lessons from that. So what did the activity teach you? What did you learn about the culture that you're participating in? What do you know about your new host country without that you didn't know without participating in an Erasmus Plus? And then this then leads into new lessons that you can learn from this. You learn better on how to be more culturally sensitive, for example, and you adjust the way you behave. And in order to actually implement this cycle and this learning, you have to go through this cycle. And we believe that Erasmus Plus offers these opportunities for the curricula, but does not sufficiently offer these opportunities to reflect during your exchanges. And that is what the Erasmus Careers Project has tried to tackle in order to allow you to reflect more on your competences. So, and when it comes to competences, it is important to make the distinction between competences and skills. Very often you will hear the word skills being used. Skills refers to this, in this context, to the ability to apply knowledge and use the know-how that you have learned to complete tasks and solve useful problems. And very often this is very useful for a workplace. But competences are more comprehensive and focus on a combination of practical and theoretical knowledge that you may have gained, the skills to apply them, but also the behavior and the values that are connected to this. So having the ability to perform a specific role or task with the right knowledge, skills, and attitude at your disposal. Very often competences are summarized as a collection of different attitudes, skills, and knowledge that you gain. And in ESN, with the Erasmus Careers Project, we focused on creating the Erasmus competence lens, using an Erasmus Plus lens on the different European competence frameworks, such as the DigiCom, GreenCom, Intercom, and LifeCom. We selected based on the research Adriana mentioned in the previous webinar, the competences that connect most to the gains that were explained to you before. And with that, we created an Erasmus Plus competence framework that clusters all of this information. And there are 5 different clusters. The first one being intercultural communication, followed by social intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, so how you as an individual function and operate is something you also learn better during your exchange. Your professional engagement, so how do you work in a team, and adaptability to trends, so how do you adapt to different experiences, to different situations that happen. And each of these competence areas cluster several competences together in this topic. So you will see this, for example, for social intelligence on the right. You see that this competence area clusters topics, competences such as citizenship, ethical and sustainable thinking, self-awareness and efficacy, critical thinking, and analytical thinking. So we brought all of these things together into one Erasmus Plus competence framework to help students reflect on the different competences that they have gained. And of course, this happens, and you can experience these at different moments during your mobility experience. So the student life cycle was also presented in the previous webinar more in depth. But to recap, we see that students go through different types of feelings and emotions throughout their mobility and experience different experiences that can impact their learning throughout their exchange. So the idea is here that we look at the W curve as a curve that explains how students experience their mobility. Pre-departure or pre-arrival to mobility are different experiences related to preparation, how to prepare, plan, budget your exchange, followed by then very experiences that upon arrival that can impact your exchanges to ensure that there are different things that can happen. For example, all of a sudden your accommodation is in a different location than you expected, or you have to plan your courses. These are all the things that happen at the arrival during your exchange. Then there is the period during your mobility where you can potentially experience a culture shock. You may feel homesick, depressed, or helpless during your exchange. And then you often work through this and begin to adapt to your host culture and start appreciating again all of their different cultural differences that you are experiencing. And very often this happens closer to the time when you need to start thinking about returning home, which is when you start preparing all of your documentation, making sure that you have all of your paperwork in order, all of your grades recognized, and your examinations filled in, moving out of your accommodation, etc. and then you return home, and very often there is what we call the reverse culture shock, where you may feel frustrated or feel a bit lonely. You miss your international friends, and you experience that for you there was a lot of things that you went through in a short period of time, in 6 months, but your fellow students are not interested in continuing to hear about these stories, and didn't actually change as much as you did in this experience. So this W curve kind of distinguishes the different milestones that students face during their exchange, and it is important to reflect on how this impacts um, your learning and the different things that you can learn from your mobility experience. Now, this is summarized in the self-learning path and the self-assessment tool. So we've created a personalized roadmap for the competences you've gained during your mobility. And the tool that my colleague will present to you in a minute guides you through this life cycle, and it will also allow you to assess your competences in the 5 phases of your mobility pathway and explore all of these competences in the clusters. So I'm going to pass the floor to my colleague, Annie Coleman, who has worked tirelessly on the self-assessment tool and the learning journey, and she will present to you a little bit more in detail how you can use this tool yourself. Annie, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Wim. So yes, I'm Annie. I'm web developer at ESN, and now I'm gonna quickly show you a short demo of all the theoretical framework that Wim has just presented to you. So here we are. You go to erasmuscareers.org over here. When you get there, you will arrive on this page. I'm gonna quickly take the opportunity to show you quickly again what Adriana talked about a couple of weeks ago, and Wim talked right now about the learning journey. You can find it over here with the W curve that's been presented. If you click on Discover More, you get to all the stages divided by the 5 main stage of the learning journey. If you click on any of the stage, you will be presented with a lot of information we encourage you to check, with videos and resources and links to our competence inventory. But right now, what's interesting us more today is the self-assessment. So I'm going to show you that more in depth. So the self-assessment is linked to your profile. So you will need to log in to get there. If you haven't created an account, you click on create an account, and I'm gonna quickly show you that as well. You get to this page, you can fill in the data, you select the job seeker profile, and you create an account. Don't be surprised, you will receive an email asking you to confirm the account to activate it. So going back to the login. So once you've logged in, you are redirected to your profile, where you can add your personal information, your work, education information, languages, tools, and you will get to the self-competence assessment. You can also access it by clicking on the tab over here. So as you can see here, I already have filled in the self-assessment. So you see already a graph with results, but if you haven't, don't be surprised. You will see it will be empty, and you will be invited to take the test. Which one? which is what we're going to do right now. So when you click on fill in the questionnaire, you arrive to this page where you are presented for each of the competence a series of options and statements. And basically what you do is to select the option that you think describes you the best. So for example, if you believe that you have a basic understanding in intercultural learning, you click here, but if you think you are mastering literacy competences, then you click that statement, and so on for the rest of the option. You will notice that each of the question, the self-assessment step is a competence area, a cluster, as Wim has talked about as well. And then you have the competences that are related to the competence area. All of this is, of course, based on the theoretical framework Wim has described to you, and the competence inventory, more specifically, that you can find over here. Yeah, I'm gonna show it to you as well. So over here, you have the competence inventory. You also have a link to the self-assessment over here. And yeah, you can learn more about each of the competence. Then we go on with our self-assessment. And I'm quickly randomly choosing option. Of course, I hope that when you will do it, you will read and assess what's the best option for you. Here is the last step, so the fifth cluster. Then you submit your questionnaire and you are redirected to your profile again. So you go back to your competence section and you will see over here. So if you remember, I had two set of results. I now have a third one. We invite you to take the self-assessment at each stage of your learning journey. So you can do it five times max. And so you can compare and see the evolution of your journey. So, for example, here, for the intercultural communication part, I got an average of 75. How is this calculated? So each of the statements that you saw me selecting correspond to a certain level of expertise. And then the graph here presents the average by cluster or competence area, however you want to call it. And yeah, then you can see the evolution of your learning journey throughout the different stage. And I think that's about it. I'm checking that I'm not forgetting to mention something, but I don't think so. Yeah, one last thing I can mention to you is that actually this profile, you can make it public. So if you go to edit your personal information, at the very bottom of the page, you have the option to make it public. Otherwise, by default, it's private, of course. And if you do so, you will be able to share it with any potential person who you might be wishing to share your CV, portfolio, and other personal information too. So yes, thank you for listening to me, and I hope you will find it interesting. I can give the floor back to Wim.
Thank you very much, Annie, for that insight. We hope that students can look at this and understand how to use a tool for themselves and in their reflection process, and understand how they can use it to reflect on the different competences they have gained and how the different mobility experiences make them feel throughout their experience. I'm going to perhaps leave the floor open for some questions from the audience that were asked in the chat. And if that is not the case, then um, see if there's a question online. There do not seem to be any questions so far. So I invite everybody else to go to the erasmuscareers.org website and try out the tool themselves. Thank you so much for all of your attention, and good luck with trying it out. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.